7 years into our marriage, Victoria, my wife and the CEO of the company we co-founded, claimed she had another business trip. It was during a holiday weekend, and once again she said she couldn't join me for our family visit. I didn't argue. I was used to her being too busy. But that night, while scrolling mindlessly through social media, I paused at a post from her young assistant, Ethan West. The photo stopped my heart cold. There she was. Victoria, standing beside Ethan at a gravesite, lighting incense with him in what looked like his hometown. The caption underneath read, "Mom and Dad really approve of their daughter-in-law. They even lit extra incense." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Daughter-in-law. I chuckled bitterly. My hand moved almost on its own. I liked the post and left a comment. Respect. Best wishes. It was calm, too calm. My friends though? They exploded. Private chats buzzed like angry hives. Bro, are you seriously this calm? Is there gonna be drama at the office again? A few hours later, Victoria called. Her tone was sharp, cold. I saw your comment on Ethan's post. That was completely unnecessary. You know he's young and sometimes doesn't think before he posts. Why would you stir things up like that? I didn't respond. She went on. Ethan has no family left. What's the big deal if I accompany him to honor his parents? People like you, who still have families, just don't get it. Delete your comment. Unlike the post, and once this weekend is over, I'll make time to visit your family too. I almost laughed. Another empty promise. No need, I said softly. By the time the weekend ended, our divorce certificate was finalized. After she hung up in anger, I got another notification, another post from Ethan. This time it was a long-winded apology, trying to smooth over the backlash. Sorry for being edgy. I didn't mean to offend anyone, especially Mr. Sincere, just joking around. But that wasn't all. The comments underneath were brutal. People I had trained, mentored, and supported, now mocking me, calling me petty. Then came Victoria's comment. Right and wrong reside in our own hearts. Only those with malicious minds resort to baseless speculation. She didn't name me. She didn't have to. Everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. That's when I stopped reading. Parked the car and walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau, divorce agreement in hand. She'd signed it a month ago when I first gave it to her. At the time, I had hesitated. Part of me had hoped she'd resist, ask why or try to fix things. But she didn't even glance at the document. She just flipped to the last page and signed. Aunt, you even going to look at what it says? I asked. No need. I trust you to handle it, she replied, like it was a casual memo. But she never trusted me. Not with anything that mattered, not even the company we built together. She shared sensitive documents with Ethan, but kept me in the dark. When I questioned it, she always had the same excuse. It's not personal. These things are complicated. I'm protecting you. And Ethan? I asked once. She just laughed. He wouldn't understand anyway. It doesn't matter if he sees them. That day, as she walked away from me, Ethan was waiting outside with a suitcase in his hand and that smug smile on his face. That's when I realized it wasn't that she trusted me. It was that someone more important had already taken my place, the bureau. The clerk looked over the paperwork. Where is your wife? She asked. She needs to be present for mediation. I hesitated, then pulled out my phone and showed her Ethan's latest post. Victoria, dressed in morning clothes, standing proudly beside Ethan, her new family. The clerk's face shifted. There was sympathy in her eyes, but she still said, "We're required to attempt mediation before finalizing anything. Can you contact her?" I nodded and dialed Victoria's number. The first call rang once before being declined. The second, same. Then came a message. If you don't delete your comment and apologize to Ethan, I won't answer your calls. Give it up. Classic Victoria. Anytime Ethan told her something, she didn't question it. She didn't ask for my side. She just expected me to apologize, whether I was right or not. Once I even ended up in the hospital after a heart attack. The doctor had called her for emergency consent. She told them, if he doesn't apologize, let him die. I told the clerk everything. Mediation doesn't seem necessary, does it? I asked. The clerk sighed and nodded. We'll proceed. Come back in 3 days for the certificate. I sat on a bench inside the bureau, drained. Half an hour later, my phone rang again. Victoria. Her voice was cold. You didn't show up at work today. Where are you? I didn't answer. She didn't care. She just wanted control. According to company policy, unexcused absences mean a 2-day salary deduction. Do you accept that? Before I could respond, I heard Ethan's voice in the background. Come on, Victoria. Maybe he had an emergency. She snorted. What emergency? He's probably scrolling social media somewhere. No apology? Now skipping work? I couldn't help but laugh. I'd built this company beside her, pulled countless all-nighters, landed major contracts. I wasn't asking for medals, but a little fairness, a little respect. Instead, I was being docked pay like an intern while Ethan scrolled through Instagram during meetings. Once, he even missed $1 million partnership pitch. She didn't punish him. She comforted him, then blamed me for the fallout. Do you admit you were wrong? She asked, still cold. I paused. Yes, I was wrong. Wrong not to see your true colors sooner. She cut me off before I could finish, clearly pleased with what she thought she heard. Good. Then I'll waive the fine, but you still need to make up for the absence. I've sent you Ethan's project. Review and complete it by the weekend. A message pinged. I opened it. Of course, another botched assignment Ethan had dumped, and like always, I was expected to clean it up. If it succeeded, he'd get the bonus. If it failed, I'd get the blame. I looked at the file and said calmly, Sean can handle it. There was silence. What did you say? She snapped. She wasn't used to me saying no, but I didn't let her respond. I hung up. Just then, the clerk returned with the paperwork in hand. You're all set. Come back in 3 days to collect your divorce certificate. 3 days. By then, Victoria would be back from her business trip. I wondered what she'd feel when she saw that piece of paper, if she'd feel anything at all. I went to the company to finalize my resignation. As the HR officer was stamping the paperwork, my eyes wandered to the photo wall near the reception, a collection of snapshots from team building events over the years. One photo stopped me cold. It was Victoria, smiling so warmly as she fed me a piece of barbecue. Someone had snapped the picture during a weekend camping trip years ago. 6 years to be exact. I could still remember how happy we were back then. Newlyweds, full of dreams. That was the trip she organized to introduce me to the team. After I quit my high-paying job to help her start her business. I had pulled all my savings for her venture. No hesitation. Back then, Victoria was all over me. Hugging me in front of everyone, kissing my cheek, feeding me like we were some couple from a romance drama. The team had teased us for being so disgustingly sweet, and she had loved that photo. She had it framed and placed it right at the center of the display wall, the most prominent spot. But now things had changed. That central place was taken by a glossy, staged picture of her and Ethan, arms intertwined at a company gala, sipping wine like some perfect power couple. The photo of us crammed in the far corner. I had to really search to find it. After a pause, I reached up and quietly took the photo off the wall. The HR officer looked up as if to object, then saw which photo I had taken. She paused, then said nothing. Maybe she figured if Victoria had moved on, she wouldn't care about an old picture anyway. Your resignation's processed, she said curtly. Just complete the handover and you're free to go. I blinked. Already? Victoria signed off? She approved it instantly, the HR officer replied, smirking. What, having second thoughts already? No, I said quickly. Actually, I'm relieved. Saves a lot of hassle. She didn't believe me. Her look said it all, cold, skeptical. It didn't matter. In a company this small, gossip traveled faster than email. Everyone already knew what had happened. Everyone was waiting for some kind of drama. I didn't give them the satisfaction. After wrapping up the handover, I packed up my things. A few colleagues exchanged glances, and I caught one guy subtly sticking his foot out in my path. Another held up his phone, camera ready, hoping to record me tripping. I saw it all, but didn't react. Instead, I walked straight toward the guy with the outstretched foot, and stepped down hard on it. He yelped and cursed, but I kept walking. No words, just the door slamming behind me. Day 2, I listed the apartment. It was an off-plan property I'd bought right after we got married. I had paid the full amount, money I'd borrowed from my parents. Because Victoria said she didn't have the funds. I didn't ask questions back then. I renovated the place myself, bought all the appliances, made it a home. I even planned to add her name to the deed when it was ready. But just before that could happen, Ethan West appeared. Without my knowledge, Victoria transferred the car, my car, fully paid for, though registered under her name, to Ethan. And she did it for an absurdly low price. When I confronted her, she just shrugged. Ethan's alone in the city. He has no family. It's hard for him. Giving him the car helps him commute. He can work better and bring more profit to the company. And besides, she added, like it was nothing, the car was a gift from you to me. I can do what I want with it, right? I was speechless. That's when I decided, when I finalized. The house deed. I left her name off. She lost it, screamed, accused me of betrayal, and ended up charging tens of thousands of dollars to my card. I let it slide. Back then, I still believed in us. Looking back, I was an idiot. Because I needed a quick sale, I listed the apartment below market value. Still, interest was high. 5 or 6 buyers showed up that same day. One made an offer I liked, and I accepted. The area had boomed since we bought, so I made over $1 million in profit. For once, something actually worked out in my favor. Day 3, I picked up my divorce certificate. It was surreal, just a simple document, and everything was over. That same afternoon, I saw a flood of social media posts from Ethan. He and Victoria were back in his hometown, living their best lives, zoo trips, feeding peacocks, her hand in his, internet cafes, late-night gaming sessions. She'd even stood up to his snooty relatives, calling herself his CEO girlfriend. This from the woman who hated games, hated noise, hated smoke. I figured she'd be too happy to come home soon. Maybe she'd stay a few extra days. But when I returned to the apartment that evening, I heard laughter inside. Her laughter. I froze outside the door, confused, and then I heard a familiar voice. I think Ethan's a good guy. Handsome, stable, no bad habits. Maybe you should consider dating him, Victoria, said her mother. Eleanor Fairchild and no in-laws to deal with, she added. You two would have beautiful kids. Unlike that sincere, useless man couldn't even give us grandchildren. Is he even capable? I stood there, stunned. Inside, Victoria went quiet for a moment. Then she said, "We've been married so long, I can't just divorce and move on like that." She didn't say that she was the one who didn't want children. She didn't say that I used to have regular hours, never smoked or drank, until I broke myself trying to support her dream. Before that bitterness could take hold, her father jumped in. Why not? Divorce is common now. With your status, you could find someone way better than sincere. Exactly, Eleanor chimed in. He lives off you. It's shameful. We never should have agreed to that marriage. We warned you. Funny. Back when I was funding their daughter's business, buying them gifts, bringing them top-shelf liquor for the holidays. They couldn't stop praising me. Called me the perfect son-in-law. Now? Disgust. I pushed open the door. Their conversation died immediately. Victoria's face froze. Her parents stiffened. What are you doing here? She asked, frowning. Isn't it work hours? Are you skipping? Again? I stared at her for a beat. She really didn't know. She hadn't even realized I'd resigned, despite approving the paperwork herself. If Ethan missed a meeting, she'd move mountains to help him. I'd been gone 2 days and she hadn't noticed. I resigned, I said flatly. You what? Her father turned red. You're quitting now? Leaving the company all to Victoria? What kind of man are you? Eleanor scoffed. So leeching off my daughter wasn't enough? Now you're playing games? Have some shame. I didn't answer them. My eyes stayed on Victoria. She didn't ask why I quit. Didn't ask if I was okay. Just curled her lip and said coldly, Fine, quit, but I'm not giving you a dime. From now on, you're on your own. I chuckled. Thanks for the reminder. Right then, Ethan strolled out of the bedroom like it was his place. Hey, what's going on? He asked with mock innocence. Did I hear Sincere resigned? I wasn't even surprised anymore. Of course he was here. He was tired from the trip, Victoria said quickly. I let him crash here. Yeah, sorry for intruding, Ethan added smoothly. I brought you something, though. A little gift. He held up a bag of fruit, cheap stuff from the market. One of the apples had the Chinese character for joy written on it, the same kind of fruit he'd posted earlier at a cemetery. Almost laughed. Do you usually give people fruit meant for graves? I asked. Victoria glared. Must you be so rude? He picked those specially for you. Ethan stepped up, feigning hurt. It's okay, Victoria. I get it. He's angry. It's my fault. I come from a poor background. I just wanted to do something nice. You don't need to do anything, I said. You've already done enough. Oh, please, Eleanor snapped. Sincere never appreciated anything. A snob, that's all he is. She took the fruit from Ethan and smiled warmly at him. Don't worry, Auntie loves your gift, Arthur added coldly. At least someone in this house has manners. I looked around the apartment one last time. I had paid for every inch of it, but I was the outsider now, and honestly I was done. Let them have it. Let them have each other. I walked out with nothing but my dignity, and that was more than enough. Victoria froze. Arthur and Eleanor went rigid, too. Ethan was the first to react. He took the divorce certificate from my hand, scanned it quickly, and for a moment, a flash of satisfaction flickered in his eyes before he masked it with a sigh and a look of regret. Sincere. How could you be so impulsive? He said, shaking his head, tone full of false sorrow. You and Victoria have been married 7 years. You should have at least talked it through with her. Maybe things didn't have to end this way. Arthur and Eleanor snapped out of their daze, their attention now locked on Victoria. You're already divorced? Arthur asked, stunned. Why didn't you tell us? Were you planning to surprise us or something? Victoria shook her head. Then, as if something clicked in her mind, her expression shifted, her eyes narrowed, her voice sharp with disbelief. Sincere, she said slowly. Is this some kind of joke? I don't recall signing any divorce papers. You did, I replied evenly. I gave you the papers before your trip last month, the contract you didn't bother to read. She went silent, her face changing again, confused at first, then angry. She finally seemed to realize I wasn't bluffing. You tricked me into signing a divorce agreement? She asked, her voice brittle. I expected her to be relieved, honestly, but she wasn't, not even close. The happiness I thought I might see never came, and then I understood why. Eleanor quickly stepped in to comfort her. It doesn't matter, Victoria, what's done is done, signed is signed, you're divorced. He initiated it, not you. That's not the point, Ethan suddenly added, his eyes flickering with something I couldn't quite place. It depends on how the assets were divided. Victoria's worth quite a bit. What if he wrote it so she walks away with nothing? Arthur's expression turned stormy. Eleanor looked ready to explode. Without asking anything further, they pointed fingers. Sincere, how could you? Arthur barked. You always were. A failure, but this? This is despicable. Give her back what's hers or we'll make sure you regret it. They didn't even stop to ask what was actually in the agreement. They just assumed I cheated her. Again. Before I could say anything, Ethan, ever the peacemaker, chimed in, Don't worry, Auntie Uncle. The court looks at more than just the agreement. As long as Victoria proves which assets are hers, she'll be fine. They all moved in perfect sync, pushing Victoria to verify her accounts and holdings. But I remained calm. There's no need, I said simply. I didn't take anything. That wasn't mine. The apartment, I gestured around, is the only thing I claimed. Everything else, her company shares, her savings, it's all still under her name. Victoria stared at me, uncertain. Eleanor wasn't convinced. Why should we believe you? I haven't touched a single cent of hers, I repeated. 7 years of marriage? I might be heartbroken, but I'm not heartless. Victoria still didn't speak. She looked distant. Eleanor eventually grabbed her phone and called the secretary herself. 5 minutes later, a message came through. Everything was intact. Just like I said. Eleanor finally let out a sigh of relief. But I had no reason to stick around anymore. I've already sold the apartment, I said, turning toward the door. The handover is in a couple of days. You should all make plans to leave. But before I could go, Victoria's voice stopped me. Wait, she said quietly. I turned around, expecting her to argue about the apartment, but her question caught me completely off guard. Why did you want to divorce me? For a second, I thought I misheard. Before I could answer, she added, I know you're angry because I spent the holiday with Ethan, but I never meant to divorce you. We don't have to end like this. She stepped closer, her voice softer now, the usual pride gone. We've been together 7 years. Let's forget today ever happened. We can start over. We can even remarry if that's what it takes. For a moment, her words echoed something familiar. I remembered the last time we stood at the Civil Affairs Bureau, ready to file the paperwork. That day, too, she'd backed out at the last second. She told me it wasn't worth it to throw away everything we'd built. And even though I was hurt, I agreed. I pretended nothing happened. We walked out hand in hand. She probably thought I'd do the same today, but she was wrong. I looked at her and let out a hollow laugh. Did she think I enjoyed being the one who always begged to stay? That I liked pretending nothing was wrong? Still, I didn't understand. She clearly had feelings for Ethan. So why this hesitation now? She must have taken my silence as another sign of weakness, of hope. She gently linked her arm through mine. Was doing it for your own good, she whispered. I just wanted to open your mind a little, help you grow. I pulled my arm away. I don't need that kind of help, I said coldly. Save it for Ethan. Her face drained of color. I heard everything earlier, at the door. The three of you. You said I'm no longer worthy of you. Victoria looked like she'd been slapped. Ethan, ever quick on his feet, jumped in. Sincere, you must have misunderstood. Let me explain. He walked toward me, placing a hand on my shoulder. The moment his hand touched me, I recoiled, disgusted. I was about to shove him off when he suddenly staggered backward like I'd pushed him and crashed into the coffee table with a loud thud. He clutched his back and groaned in pain. Victoria rushed to him, then turned to me, eyes filled with fury. What the hell is wrong with you? Ethan injured his back, don't you know that? He's been through enough. She started yelling. Her voice cracked with anger. Eleanor looked confused. Wait, what back injury? Victoria, eyes misty, explained as she helped Ethan up. She talked about Ethan's difficult life, how he took hard jobs to support himself, working at docks, hauling bricks, doing farm labor. She described how his relatives mistreated him after. His parents died, but I knew better. I had looked into it. His so-called hard life didn't add up. His relatives had a lot to say about him, and none of it was good. Lazy, manipulative, dishonest. Even when I tried to tell Victoria the truth, she brushed me off. They must have treated him like an animal, she said. I've seen the scars on his back. Scars don't lie. I told her I'd done manual labor too, showed her my own scars. She didn't care. You brought those on yourself, she had said. That memory burned. Maybe I was a fool for holding on so long. Her heart had already turned away from me toward him. Even now, my in-laws didn't say much more. They were more focused on getting Ethan to the hospital. We'll talk later, Victoria said over her shoulder as they left. But I didn't take it seriously. Not anymore. Ever since Ethan showed up, she'd broken every promise she made me. She'd cancel plans, forget birthdays, show up hours late, if she showed up at all. I stopped waiting for her. I booked a flight home the next morning, but that night she came. The doorbell rang around midnight. I thought it was my late-night takeout. When I opened the door, Victoria was standing there. She wore a floral dress. Her makeup was perfect. She smiled and lifted a small cake in her hands. Happy birthday, she said sweetly. I was stunned. That smile. It had been years since I'd seen it. 5 years at least. And after Ethan entered her life, she didn't even remember my birthday anymore. Sometimes she got the date wrong, or the cake would arrive days late. Eventually, she stopped trying altogether. But Ethan? Every year on his birthday, I'd see pictures online. Cakes, gifts, dinners from her. I gave her a faint smile. No point in being cruel to someone who was smiling. We were divorced now anyway. Maybe this was her version of goodbye, so I didn't shut the door, but I knew. I wasn't going to open it again. I thanked her and accepted the cake she brought. It was a fruitcake, completely covered in dragon fruit. She knew I was allergic. She had to. Victoria's face flushed with embarrassment the moment she saw my expression. The shops were all closed by the time I got around to it, she said, trying to smile. I had to run all over town to find this one. Birthdays are just symbolic anyway, right? And you don't even like cake that much. I nodded, even though the bitterness stung more than the allergy ever could. Just say whatever you came to say, I told her. I've got an early flight tomorrow, I can't let you stay long. Victoria hesitated. Where are you going? Tight home, she looked confused. And when will you be back? I'm probably not coming back, I said simply. I never liked this city. I only came here because of you. And now that it's over, I've got no reason to stay. There was a brief silence. Her voice softened, a hint of panic slipping through. Are you still mad about this afternoon? Ethan heard his back. I was just worried. I panicked, that's all. But I meant what I said. I don't want a divorce. I want us to remarry after 7 years of marriage. Can you really just throw it away like this? What's the alternative? I asked, looking her in the eye. You want us to stay married while I watch you cozy up to another man? She frowned. Sincere, why do you have to be so harsh? I'm just being honest, I said. Am I wrong? I only felt bad for Ethan. He's struggling. I just wanted to help. Help him? I raised an eyebrow. By going to his family's house and playing the part of someone else's daughter-in-law. She didn't answer. I could feel the argument heading nowhere, and honestly, I was tired. If you really want to help him, I said, then fire him. You have plenty of contacts. Get him a job somewhere else. Predictably, Victoria shook her head. Business is business. Ethan hasn't done anything wrong professionally. I can't just fire him because you're suspicious. Then we have nothing left to talk about. I walked over to the door and opened it, motioning for her to leave. Her expression darkened. Sincere. How did you become like this? So cold. So paranoid. Paranoid? I snapped. Or maybe I'm just seeing things clearly now. Maybe the person feeling guilty is the one who's acting suspicious. I looked straight at her when I said it. She clenched her fists and stomped her foot in frustration. Fine, don't regret this. And just like that, she walked out again. 2 days later, I realized what she meant by don't regret this. She started posting pictures online, her and Ethan, arms around each other, holding hands, eating at romantic spots, traveling together. And then she sent some of the photos directly to me. Sincere. Can you really just sit back and watch me with someone else? Maybe she thought this would break me. Maybe she believed jealousy would drive me back to her. But the truth is, I'd already seen it all. I had found Ethan's old social media accounts before, pictures that were far more intimate than what she was sending me now. I'd already been through that emotional storm. This? It barely stirred anything. So I ignored her, and I kept living. For once I slowed down, I let the sun warm my skin. When I was with Victoria, I was always rushing, working late, chauffeuring her around, cleaning up after her drunken nights, handling household chores, solving Ethan's endless work issues. I barely had time to breathe. And when I asked to rest, she'd guilt me into staying awake for her. I had spent so long thinking about her. Now, I was finally thinking about me. My parents had already known about the divorce. Ever since Ethan came back into the picture, Victoria had barely visited them. And some of the things she'd done in the past had hurt them deeply. So when I told them about the split, they didn't object. They said they would support whatever decision I made. Eventually, Victoria stopped messaging. I figured our lives had finally split for good, like two lines crossing briefly, only to drift away forever. But life rarely plays out that cleanly. One afternoon, while I was at my grandmother's place, sweating under the sun and clearing weeds from the land, something I'd learned to do years ago while helping in Victoria's hometown. My phone rang. It was her, Victoria. I almost declined the call, but just then a drop of sweat slipped down my brow and landed squarely on the screen, accidentally answering it. Sincere. It's been a month. Her voice came through soft and hesitant. You're not still angry, are you? I wiped my forehead, letting out a dry laugh. What anger? Do you really think I divorced you out of spite? You mean, you weren't just mad? I was amused by the innocence in her voice. Before I could reply, I heard Ethan in the background. Victoria, who are you talking to? That was enough for me. I hung up. I didn't think much of it, until a few days later when she actually showed up. She had lost weight, dressed in a flowing white dress, makeup flawless as ever. But something about her looked worn down, tired, hollow. My parents greeted her with open arms, laying out her favorite fruits and snacks like they always used to. That warmth in them never changed. I walked in and paused, surprised. What are you doing here? My parents quickly made up excuses to leave the room. That's when I realized Victoria must have come hoping to use them as mediators. You don't need to waste your time, I told her plainly. My parents respect my choices. She looked away, lips pressed tightly together. Besides, I continued, everyone's seen where your priorities have been these past few years. I paused, and you know it too, better than anyone. Her silence said everything. I could tell my parents had already turned her away before I got home. Victoria's face didn't carry her usual pride. Her smile was weak, the corners of her mouth trembling like someone who had used up all their strength just to show up. I admit it, she said softly. I made a lot of mistakes over the years, but I know that now, and all I've been thinking about since the divorce is you. You're the one I love, Sincere. Maybe you don't care about our 7 years together, but I do. I'm not that heartless. She covered her face and began to cry. Really cry. The kind of sobbing that used to tear at my heart. There was a time when just one of her tears would have made me do anything for her. But now I felt nothing but silence inside. No pain, no pull. Just a quiet finality. I kicked Ethan out. She choked out between sobs. Let's try again. Let's remarry, please. I looked at her, makeup perfect, dress flowing, eyes pleading. But none of it moved me. That part of me had long died. There's no need, I said gently but firmly. It's too late. She stared at me like she couldn't believe what she'd heard. So, you don't love me anymore? I shook my head. No, I don't. Please leave. She didn't move. I figured mentioning Ethan might jolt her. You should go, I said. It's late. Ethan might be worried. Instead of reacting with anger, her expression shattered. She broke down even more. Ethan deceived me. He's not who I thought he was, she whispered, voice trembling. He embezzled money from the company. When I found out, it was already too late. There was a massive financial hole. I've reported him to the police. I'm pressing charges. She looked up at me with swollen eyes. He even used my phone to approve your resignation. I saw his old messages to you. He was driving a wedge between us this whole time. If only I'd realized sooner. If only you had told me earlier. I finished the sentence for her calmly. Even if I had, you wouldn't have believed me. She froze. You saw Ethan as a lost puppy that needed saving, and me as the jealous husband. So no matter what I said, you would have thought I was just being possessive, throwing a fit. She tried to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I warned you about him, his mistakes at work, his intentions toward you. You brushed it all off. You let him get close. You trusted him more than me. Victoria said nothing. Just stood there with that hollow look in her eyes. I gave years of my life to you, to the company. If you truly valued me, my resignation wouldn't have passed so easily. But you didn't even read the divorce papers properly. You were already planning your trip abroad with him. I exhaled slowly. The truth is, Victoria, you stopped loving me long before I stopped loving you. If it hadn't been Ethan, it would have been someone else. A different man, a different excuse. Being with you drained me. I don't have anything left to give. Her face turned pale, her body rigid. She tried to hold herself together, but the weight of my words crushed whatever hope she'd been holding on to. She covered her face again and cried, but this time she didn't make a sound. I watched silently, letting her cry. After a few minutes, she turned to leave. Halfway out the door, she stopped and looked back. "I won't bother you again," she said, her voice small. "But can I have that photo?" I frowned. "What photo?" "The one from the team building trip of us. I think it was pinned on your photo wall." I remembered it, a faded photo tucked in the corner, yellowed by time. "I burned it," I said. "The day I came home after the divorce." "You're asking too late." Her eyes lost whatever light they had left. She stood there for a moment, broken in a way I'd never seen before. Then, without another word, she turned and walked out. Her slender frame disappeared into the night, and I somehow knew, deep down, that would be the last time we ever saw each other. I was wrong. A few weeks later, I heard what happened. After Victoria returned home, Ethan, facing imminent arrest, tried to get back into her good graces. He showed up again, begging for forgiveness, promising to change. But this time, Victoria stood her ground. She refused. During the argument, things turned violent. In a struggle on the apartment balcony, Ethan pushed her. Maybe it was an accident, maybe it wasn't. But she fell 19 floors. She died instantly. Ethan was arrested on the spot. He was later convicted of multiple charges, including involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. When news of Victoria's death broke, her father, Arthur, tried to salvage the company. But during the financial review, they uncovered millions in debt, all under her name. The shock triggered a heart attack. He passed away during her funeral, despite efforts to revive him. Her mother, Eleanor, couldn't take the double blow. Her hair turned white in a matter of days. She stopped speaking. Eventually, she disappeared. Rumors said she checked herself into a private care facility. No one's seen her since. By the time I heard all this, I was already finalizing my parents' passports for their first ever overseas trip. We were planning to travel together. No destination, just wherever life took us. Life can be cruel, and it can be kind, and it's always fleeting. But after everything, every storm, every scar, every heartbreak, I was finally free. My past was behind me, my future, open and bright.